Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be doing this Twilight themed press-on nail set. We'll be going through each of these designs step by step and in detail. This is one of my favorite nail sets I've done recently, and I tried to capture the entire Twilight series, so I hope you enjoy this tutorial. And as always, I will be using products from my own brand. We have gel polishes, art gels, polygels, and brushes. I'll list in detail what products I'm using for this specific design. You can shop on our website at doperthanyournails.com. The link will be in the description, and you can always use code YouTube at checkout to save 10%. So I've already got my 10 press-on nails prepped here, and I have a lot of other videos that go into more detail about press-on nail prep, but one step I wanted to show today that I haven't really shown in a while is that I am adding a thin layer of builder in a bottle to my press-on nails and then flipping the nail over to help them self-level. This is a great way to add an additional layer of strength and kind of just make your nails a little bit more durable if you feel like they're a little bit flimsy. So starting off with a classic blood drip design with a little twist, I went ahead and applied my base color, which is a black gel polish and fully cured, and now I'm taking our art gel in the shade Eternal Eclipse. This is available individually or as part of the Celestial Love collection. It's a really stunning red shade with a glitter in it that literally looks like it's sparkling. So for the blood drip, you just want to draw 3 dots and try to make sure they are not completely lined up and staggered. I think it looks better that way. Now I'm just loading up my liner brush, and we're going to start drawing straight lines from the 3 dots to the top of the nail, and make sure that everything is uncured. It makes it easier to blend the whole design together and make it more cohesive. Now I'm just drawing curved lines to connect everything and filling that in. This is a thicker gel, so it really helps add some texture, and it's really pigmented and easy to work with. The key to this design is making sure your lines are really curved and then making the bottom of the 3 dots look like almost a teardrop, and then just keep bringing your lines up and down to make sure everything is nice and cohesive. The more curved your lines are, the more like a blood drip design this will look, and then once it's to your liking, you can go ahead and cure. Next, we're doing a forest design, and for this we are channeling our inner Bob Ross. I'm taking our antique jade gel polish, which is the perfect Foggy Forks color. This is from our most recent art glass collection, also available individually or as part of the full collection, and I am top coating and curing because we are going to add a little bit of an aura effect, and I think it comes out smoother over a top coat. So taking a white gel paint and a sponge, I'm just gonna go ahead and concentrate that at the center. I'm pinching the clean side of my sponge once I've applied most of the color, and I want to help spread that out. You can also do this in layers. I ended up doing 2 layers and curing in between. I think it's easier to build up the product versus adding too much and trying to remove it. So this is my hack. I personally don't work with airbrush machines, so whenever I want to do an aura effect, this is the technique that I like to use. And using a thicker gel paint or like our art gels really helps with the aura effect as well. So you just want to keep patting that out and keep checking how it looks. And we're going to take a black gel and apply that at the bottom of the nail and kind of blend it out upwards with our brush. This is just to kind of create more of kind of the mysterious, you know, kind of dark smoky effect behind the trees. And I went ahead and top coated that one more time. Now for the trees themselves, we're just gonna start drawing straight lines of varying heights and try to make them pretty thin. And if they look a little bit scraggly, it actually kind of helps contribute to the overall look. Now for the trees, we are quite literally gonna channel our inner Bob Ross and use a cleanup brush with a little bit of black gel polish. I'm using the brush dry, and honestly, if your brush is a little bit messed up, it probably will work better. And we are just going from side to side and gently patting to create the different parts of the tree. And as you can see, it works pretty well. This is about how much I'm using of the black gel polish on my brush. So with just a little bit of black gel polish and just gentle tapping motions from side to side, you should get a pretty nice forest effect with this. I even made some of the trees a little bit more faded than the others just to kind of contribute to the overall look. We're not really going for a super cartoonish look. We're kind of going for something, I guess you could say a little bit realistic, but a little bit more like painterly. And this is how it turns out. Literally one of my favorite hacks for doing like a forest design or nature design. We are drawing Bella's truck. This is definitely probably the hardest design out of all of them. One of the more complex designs. So I went ahead and applied a black gel polish, and then I'm using a thin layer of blooming gel, and I'm taking some of our Winter's Veil gel polish with some gray, and I wanted to create kind of a smoky background. So with the blooming gel uncured, I just took a mixture of the 2 colors, and I'm just swiping my brush from side to side, and then just let it bloom, let that sit for a couple of minutes, and it'll spread out and it'll create a really nice kind of foggy background effect. And we are going to be using our art gels again. Again, this is from our Celestial Love collection. The color I showed earlier, Eternal Eclipse, is from this collection. It comes with 8 art gels, and it also includes a free art gel brush. You can also shop the shades individually. It includes a lot of kind of reddish pink colors, but some really interesting kind of glitter and chrome type colors as well, and some solid colors like this color 7th House. It is such a pigmented red, really great for like more detailed work, which is what I've been using it for a lot lately, and it's perfect for Bella's truck. So for her truck, we're going to start with kind of an elongated U, and we're just drawing these curved lines to kind of map out the basic outline of the truck. I don't think I've ever drawn a car before, so I was honestly just kind of winging it and trying to get the basic outline down, and that's kind of my approach when I'm doing nail art that is super new to me. So once we've got the basic outline, I'm just kind of blocking out the different areas that are going to be a little bit more white and gray, like the bottom of the car and the headlight as well, and kind of the top part of the car, in front of the car. What is the technical term? Is it the grill of the car? I don't know. But basically any part that's not going to be red, I am mapping out with a white gel, and we will be going back and adding more shading later. So like the different windows and like the headlight, like I mentioned. And then I went ahead and added our red art gel and filled in the rest of those areas. This is very much so a trust the process design, and honestly it was pretty difficult for me, but I wanted to see it all the way through. Like I said, I've never drawn like a car before. So now I'm taking a little bit of a gray gel polish mixed with some top coat and applying that over the white areas that we blocked out. And for the details on the front of the truck, I'm using the same technique with the gel polish and the cleanup brush just to kind of soften it out. We're not going for a super cartoonish look, like I said. It's obviously not hyper realistic, but it's kind of somewhere in between. So using a brush to kind of fade out details like this really helps. And then we're just drawing in the tire with a dotting tool. I try to use my dotting tool whenever I can, just to make things easier. And again, just using that cleanup brush to add some more red at the center. Now I'm taking our Crimson Wash Gel Polish. This is a really deep jelly red. Jelly colors are really great for shading. If you've been following my TikTok or Instagram, I've been doing a lot of short form tutorials showing this. But our art glass collection, not only are they great as base colors, they're really excellent for shading and adding dimension. So this dark red was perfect to add a layer over the entire truck. And now I went ahead and added some more highlights just to kind of add a little bit more, brighten up some areas. I also went over the different kind of edges of the truck with a kind of black mixed with top coat. Some of this like nail art can be kind of hard to explain, but hopefully you can follow along the best you can just through like the visual tutorials as well. I try to film as much of it as I can. But it's really just about layering the different colors and kind of experimenting. So even for the headlight, I'm adding a little bit of white around the edges because I want it to really have a glowing effect. So once I add this jelly color, this is our golden hour jelly, it almost like looks like it's on fire and glowing. It's pretty cool to kind of see this come to life. At this point, I kind of felt like, okay, I can kind of tell that this is like Bella's truck. So you can also add a little bit more white at the center to really add more of a glowing effect. And I kind of called it there. I was like, this is good for me. I don't want to add any more. So I went ahead and top coated, and I actually really love how this turned out. It's such an iconic part of the Twilight series, so I'm glad I was able to incorporate it in some way. And this is how the nail is looking so far. Now I wanted to capture part of the New Moon movie as well. I'm trying to capture most of the series as much as I can. So I'm starting off with this black cat eye and using a magnet to just run around the perimeter of the nail, just to add a little bit of an interesting background underneath the kind of moon design that we're doing. I think a cat eye really helps the design pop. You can do 2 layers of the cat eye if you want it to be more opaque, and you can just run your magnet again across the perimeter of the nail just to kind of concentrate the glitter and effect, towards the middle. The key to this moon design is using a good pearlescent white. This is our Winter's Veil. I use it so much, you can see I'm practically almost out. But we're going to use this to draw a large circle. The reason using a pearlescent white really helps is it creates a really dimensional and layered effect without you really having to do anything. The polish kind of does the work for you. You can even swirl it around a little bit if you want more of that pearlescent and kind of layered effect. Using 3 of our jelly colors, Crimson Wash, Glass Atrium, and Golden Hour, to make a reddish brown color. We're going to use this to shade half of the moon. The key to this design is definitely just layering the colors, so I'm just using kind of a stippling motion to apply this over half of the moon, and we're going to apply it over pretty much all of it, but don't worry about it looking perfect or covering everything up. In fact, if you can kind of see the mix of the 2 colors kind of coming through, it kind of contributes to the overall effect even better. Then I mix some black with clear top coat, and we are just using that to add more shading and dimension. The right side is kind of the darkest part of the moon, so we're just trying to create that kind of gradual transition. And then just taking a plain black gel polish and using that at the very edge of the right side, since that's the darkest part of the moon and the design. So you just want to use a black, like regular gel polish, nothing mixed in it, to create that depth there. And I am curing between each layer as well. Now I'm taking our golden hour jelly polish, and we're gonna use this on the left side of the moon. This is really great for adding some of that warmth and glow in that we are looking to create on the left side, which is kind of like the illuminated portion. This is another great example of how jelly colors are so great for shading because they're so buildable and easy to blend. I'm also concentrating more of this color at the center, just so it kind of blends with the right side as well. To add an even more fiery touch in certain areas, I'm taking our etched ember gel polish, which is a jelly orange. It's very pigmented, so a little bit goes a long way. I'm using this at the bottom and left side of the moon to again create more of that glow. Now using the same mixture from earlier, the brown mixture, I'm just creating some black spots. This is kind of like the craters of the moon. And then just adding a little bit of black at the center. That's pretty much it for that design. Go ahead and top coat and you're done. I really love how this turned out. This might be one of my favorite parts of the Twilight set. I think it really captures the new moon part of the series. Now I'm taking antique jade and crystal dewdrop. Crystal dewdrop is from our winter collection, but it's also a really nice kind of powdery, soft blue jelly, and we're gonna layer these two. So I'm doing a very thin layer of crystal dewdrop and then a thin layer of antique jade. We are further continuing to create another design in line with the new moon part of the series. So this is gonna be like the La Push beach with the waves and the cliff and kind of a little bit of a wolf on top. So to draw the cliff, we're just taking a plain brown gel polish and kind of drawing this irregular kind of like, almost like a boot shape, and then go ahead and fill that in. And you're just gonna need like a few different shades of brown. So I'm using a darker brown and I'm gonna start using that along the edges to create a little bit more depth there. There's really no set formula to shading. I just tried to pick like a lighter version, a medium version, and a darker version of a color and use those three to basically create dimension. So taking kind of a lightish gray and using that at the bottom, just because that's kind of where the waves will be. And then taking a black with a top coat, kind of like we used for the moon design, and using that along the very top parts of the cliff that will be kind of the darkest parts pretty much. I just try to experiment with the colors and see what looks best to me. So I just wanted to add a little bit more of that depth kind of at the bottom. So I'm using more of that black mixture there and then just kind of blending it upwards. The wolf was a little bit difficult, so I'm just trying to keep it simple and use some gel polish to kind of sketch out the basic outline, kind of map out where the feet would be, the tail and the head. And then I started filling in some more of those parts. This part of the design was just very tiny as well. So I tried to just make sure I at least got somewhat of the outline down, and then we're gonna add some more shading with the brown gel polish. I even had to like redo some parts. I didn't feel like the proportions were quite right, but once I got it to kind of something that was okay, I went ahead and started adding those same brown gel polishes that I used from like the cliff area with a little bit of black mixed in. We're just trying to get a basic outline there, you know, with the feet and the legs and the tail and ears and so on and so forth. So I just went ahead and added that mixture and darkened up some areas like near the nose and the bottom of the feet as well. Now for the waves, we're going to be layering a bunch of different kind of blues, greenish blues. I'm using crystal dewdrop, antique jade. I'm also using this really nice blue color from Madame Glam called Ready Set Ski. I've had it for a couple of years and I've used it quite a bit. So I'm just layering the different colors, and these are all the different mixtures that I have. And I'm also preparing a mixture of white and Winter's Veil. We're going to use this for the waves once we've got our base colors pretty much down. Now to finish off this bottom part, I'm just gonna go ahead and take antique jade just by itself and layer it over pretty much the entire design, just using the jelly color as is. And then I'm using more of that darker blue at the edges and just kind of blending that in and making sure it looks as cohesive as possible. And you can always add in more of the colors as needed. And now I'm gonna take that white mixture and use my brush, the same one that I used for like the forest design, and just use a stippling motion to create the waves. I'm just kind of doing like an irregular pattern on the top of the kind of design that we drew, and then we're gonna darken up some of the areas underneath it just to kind of make it look more like a wave if we can, add some dimension under there. So we're just gonna take more of that darker blue and just add it right underneath the waves and just gently bring that down and blend it in just so it looks a little bit more like it has a little bit more of a dimensional effect, if that makes sense. And you can also bring down the white a little bit as well, whatever looks good to you. I went ahead and top coated that. And now for the lamb design, I am gonna use blue hour and mix that with glass atrium. Blue hour is from our winter collection and glass atrium's for the summer collection. And I love this mixture so much. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, but it creates this really kind of ethereal jelly color, like semi-jelly color with just the touch of blue hour and glass atrium. It looks really, really nice. I'm gonna use our art gel brush to apply this. I'm doing a very thin layer to start just because I still wanna kind of maintain that glass effect. So here's one layer. It's up to you. If you wanna leave it like that, you totally can. I went ahead and did a second layer of that same mixture just so we had a little bit more pigment and opaqueness, but I really love how this looks out. It kind of looks like a very fairy inspired color as well, very in line with our winter collection. Now I'm mixing up more of that white with Winter's Veil to create kind of a color to sketch with. So for the lamb, I'm basically using a sketching motion to do the outline of the lamb. I'm gonna do the top of the head, which is like an upside down U, and then just kind of like these two pieces sticking out for the ears, just kind of mapping out the face here as well. I'm trying to get the proportions and kind of general body shape pretty much mapped out. This felt very in line with like the first movie. As we know, like the lamb is like a big symbol in the movie. But anyways, as I finished up the face, I'm just doing the body. So I'm just drawing a curved line for pretty much, the lamb is pretty much laying down and kind of resting. So it's pretty much just a kind of, you know, rounded rectangular shape. And then you can kind of start mapping out where the legs are and kind of the different, you know, outlines for that. The feet are kind of tucked under there. So it's just a lot of curved lines. I'm basically just doing my best to map it out, and then we're gonna go ahead and fill it in, but we're not filling it in so much like to make it fully opaque and blend together. You can kind of use a stippling motion. I still wanna be able to see like where the different feet and different components are, because we are gonna go back and of course add some shading. So this kind of looks crazy right now, but it kind of all comes together in the end. It works better if it's not fully like opaque and like filled in, like to be a perfect, you know, application of the color. So anyways, now I'm just taking some black with clear and just using that to shade around the edges, just to add some more outlines, more like defined outlines of where, you know, basically where the edges of the design are, the ears, the face. And we're gonna bring this all around the body. We're gonna use this to map out where the legs are and where the different lines are, like the legs that are bent and things like that. This is why I was saying you don't want to cover up like everything that you've drawn. Like you want to be able to see generally where the lines are. Now that we've got those basic areas outlined, I'm going to take Winter's Veil just by itself and use that to brighten up some portions that are looking a little bit sparse. And we're going to go back in and further like define and make darker some areas, like especially where the ears are and the face. Probably seems like a lot of steps, but I'm just truly showing like what my process is of painting, and you know, I'm also learning as I go. And I'm gonna use rosette pane, which is a pink jelly. Just for the ears, we're just gonna add like the tiniest amount of that. And now we're gonna go ahead and add the eyes and the nose, which is just like the most subtle, like small black curved line and a little bit there for the nose. Very simple, and go ahead and top coat and you're done. And I feel like it really captured the aesthetic that I was going for, which was not necessarily like character nail art, but a little bit more painterly and kind of softer. Now for the easy part, we're just gonna take this Aurora 3D clay and we're gonna apply it all over the entire nail, kind of flatten it out. And I'm just using this kind of spatula tool to add these lines and create like a diamond pattern. This is my take on, this is the skin of a killer, like the sparkle that you see in the movie. I just thought with like the Aurora gel it would look really nice, so I repeated that on the other pinky with a pink Aurora gel. So you just want to flatten it to pretty much fit the entire nail, and once that's pretty much to your liking, you just go ahead and just use the tool to basically draw these parallel lines. Sorry, not draw, but just sculpt them in there and then top coat and you're done. So here's the final result with all 10 nails. This was definitely a more challenging set, and I'm glad I got to try a lot of new techniques and do all kinds of different nail art. So I hope you enjoyed, and you can shop our products through the link in the description, and be sure to use code YouTube to save, and I'll see you in my next video.